Hey there, graphic designers. All right, you are still with me for yet another tutorial video. In this one, we're going to talk about layering your objects and being able to move them frontwards, backwards, send backwards, send forward, all the different options so that you're trying to add depth to your image so that it looks like things are a forced perspective, if you will. So this one, we're going to use Star Wars, and I've got a lot of big objects that we're going to have to resize and layer so that it looks like they're far off in the distance compared to other things. Starting with our droids here, so it says that they've crash landed on this strange planet and the bad guys are trying to find them here. So I'm going to put the droids just right here in the center of the sand, and if I zoom in a little bit, well, you can see it from here. We'll talk about zooming in another video. But we've got R2 and C3PO, excuse me, here in the center. And right where they're placed right now, it looks kind of odd because C3PO is like right in front of R2D2. And usually R2 is a little faster than him. So let's say we want to move R2 in front of him. So we're going to select him. And then there's always the arrange menu up here. And then order is what we're always dealing with when we're doing layering. Now I want you to notice something real quick. There's only 4 options. There's bring to front, bring forward, send backward, and send to back. And with each of these, there are keyboard shortcuts just to save you the time of having to go up through these menus, wait for the submenu to pop out, and then find the right one. So you'll notice a lot of these start, or all of them actually, start with the control key. And then if I'm trying to send it all the way to the front or all the way to the back, meaning behind everything else or in front of everything else, I have to also hold the shift key. And then I'm using the arrow keys up or down to bring it front, up, or down, back. All right, this is going to make sense in just a minute here. So you could use this menu if you would like, or if you want to learn how to use these keyboard shortcuts, it's actually going to save you a lot of time once you get used to them and remember which ones are which. All right, so one more thing though before we leave that menu. I'll talk about the difference between bring to front and bring forward. So when you say bring to front, that means I want it now in front of everything else that is currently on the slide. But if I do bring forward, it's only going to bring it in front of one thing that is in the image. Okay? So bring forward means boom, 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 all the way in front of everything else. Bring forward just says, no, let's just bump it up one layer compared to what else is in the slide. All right? So when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish here with R2 and C3PO, I am going to select R2, and then I'm going to do Control, Shift, and up just to bring him in front of everything else, but especially in front of C3PO. So you see now when I deselect him, now it looks like C3PO is slightly behind R2D2. All right, so that's one example. Now let's say up here we've got the Millennium Falcon is flying, probably trying to come after this guy here. But he's got these TIE fighters, which should be behind him, right? If they're chasing the Millennium Falcon. But right now, the TIE fighter is like on top of the Millennium Falcon. So we're going to try to bring the Millennium Falcon to the front, or we're going to try to send the TIE fighter back. All right. Now, if I go back to my menu, I'm going to show you the difference here between the two. If I go to Arrange, Order, and if I select Send to Back, it's going to actually send it behind the picture. So if I do Send to Back, now that TIE fighter is gone. At least it's not visible anymore. And that's because the image itself, the big picture, is just one more object that we are layering here. So I wouldn't want to send something all the way to the back unless I also selected the background image too. So let me go back. I'll hit the undo button here. And I can still do that action, but I want to also select our picture here. So I'm going to, with the TIE fighter selected, I'm going to hold down the shift key and also click the background image. So you now see that there's a blue rectangle around both objects. And now if I do arrange, order, and send to back, you'll see now the TIE Fighter is behind the Millennium Falcon. Okay, so that's how you can accomplish that. Otherwise, I could have also just brought the Millennium Falcon to the front too, but there's more than one way to do it here. All right, and then let's say this Star Destroyer was a little smaller because it's actually flying out away from the Death Star back there. And let's say there's actually quite a few of them. Oh, now it wouldn't be behind the Death Star, it would be in front of it, right? Because it's flying towards the camera away from the Death Star. So this is another case where we would want to choose which one we're moving, right? So either we're moving the Death Star back or we're moving the ship forward. So let's say we're going to move it forward. I'm just going to do Control Shift and the up arrow to bring it in front of the Death Star. And then let's say we had a few of these bad boys here. So there's that one that's farther away. This new one, it's going to be a little closer, so I'm going to resize it just slightly. Okay, so it's a big one. And then I want to make sure that it is behind this little walker guy up here. So now I would want to bring him to the front. You see it was a slight change there. If I make this guy just a little bit bigger, because he would be pretty tall, you'll now see that those ships are flying in from behind the bigger walker guy here. So just a couple examples of moving things back and forth between the front and back of the scene so that you give that perspective or that depth to your overall scene. All right, so have fun with this. It can be a little tedious depending on how many objects you are trying to layer in, but you just have to take your time and think about, all right, where do I want it in the order of things as people see it in the overall scene? All right, so good luck with that one. That was all about layering your objects.